Good evening, Melbourne. Welcome to the show. Tough times never last, but tough people do. I'm Michael Kazilny, and thank you very much for all the people who've been watching for over 5 years now. As you know, it used to be called A Life in Crime, and we recently changed it a couple of seasons ago, called Tough Times Never Last. And if you are going through some difficult issues in your life, God bless you. I hope things get better much sooner. And of course, remember, when you are going through the fire, there's always sunshine at the end of the rainbow. On the couch, the big fella here is Maurice Valentino, and he's a good man, a changed man. But mate, I was just looking, Maurice, at some of these photos here, and
some evidence.
it's a lot of ecstasy tablets. How many are there? Or is it cocaine?
There were embossed Mercedes-Benz tablets, and there was 6,887 to be exact.
That's a lot of stuff. Now, I met you in the courts, and quite amazing the turnaround. But tell me, the first 25 years offence-free, Maurice, is that right, or the first?
I was 33 when I got incarcerated. Actually, February the 17th, 2004.
2004. And how old were you?
33.
And before that, a clean skin?
Before that, just some misdemeanours, you know, driving without a licence. Yeah, minor stuff.
And then you got into the big boy stuff. And what did you get charged for? What's this all about?
There were several charges that they alleged, and it was kidnapping, intentionally causing serious injury, and commercial manufacturing of...
And of course, it was all over the papers years ago, wasn't it?
I hit the lunchtime news, hit the evening news, and I think I got a few write-ups in some papers. But
people thought
you don't get to see the paper when you're in a cell, and you don't get to see the news when you're in a cell.
People thought, who's this big fella? One of Mr. Mockbell's associates.
Actually, considering you mentioned that, I got introduced to Mockbell the same day that this happened. Maybe some bad karma rubbed off somewhere along the line. I don't know, but I don't...
Maurice, just in a nutshell before we go into your growing up and after prison, but how did it all start? You obviously had a taste for the party drugs, and there was money to be made.
I was 18. I got involved in my first legitimate business with a gentleman, and I had to buy into this. It was a legitimate shop. It was called Ozbods. I was a young bodybuilder at the time. I wanted to be part of a business that revolved around the bodybuilding scene.
I remember Ozbods.
Yes, and I invested $20,000, which I took out a loan from the bank, and my parents put the house as security. Anyway, as it turns out, one of the partners, which was the main character there, burnt me and another partner. So at the age of 19, there was... roughly around there was a recession, and I became redundant. That's why I decided to go into a business so I could employ myself. And a couple of blokes ripped you off? No, one of the partners ripped two of us off, which was me and another partner. Yep. So I'd lost me $20,000, and I still owed this money to the bank. Now there was a recession in the country at the time, and there was no way. And I had very little skills. I left school at year 11. And the last job I had before that actual business was as a storeman. Now I couldn't even get a job as a storeman because of the recession. So to not lose my parents' house and to keep servicing this loan, I had to return. Had no option but to turn to the business of drugs. All right. I suppose there was options, but that's what you chose to do at the time, bro, yeah? Well, it was either, if I went back to school, well, that wasn't going to service the loan, so that wasn't an option. So what did you do? I mean, how do you make that many drugs? How did I start? Yeah, how did you start? Oh, well, when I was young, I started like any young hoodlum from a suburb that hangs around the local milk bar and starts selling small quantities of cannabis and... Okay, which you got from other people? From which I got from a certain person that that took me in as a young man because I didn't really have a very strong connection with my father. My father wasn't there much for me.
Right.
He wasn't there to give me advice. So
That's interesting. You didn't have a father figure.
Yeah, a man took me in as his son, and
Isn't that amazing?
he gave me opportunity to make some money for myself.
And then, when did you discover the shit? I can make these myself.
Oh well, that progressed years after because it was a transitional period from starting from the very bottom of this. You can say, how could we put it, the drug corporate ladder?
So
to
drug
speak.
trafficker for a whole decade.
And a bit more.
And a bit more.
Yeah. Well, from the age of 19 till 33.
And hardly ever got caught along the way.
Never.
And then crunch time. What happened?
What happened crunch time?
Yeah.
Well, a gentleman, a close friend of mine, decided that it was in his best interest not to pay a substantial amount of money that was owed for some contract manufacturing, which I manufactured for him under verbal contract. And little to my knowledge, he had a bad gambling habit. And not only did he gamble his money, he gambled my fees.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's how that's how.
And then the war started.
Oh no! Then that's when the enterprise got closed down.
Yeah.
But you know, from the age of 19 up to 33, it was a slow transition of working my way up to the point where I was the person in control of whatever was produced for the black market.
And Maurice, how did the cops get involved?
Well,
Did somebody make you in?
there was some. It was asked to his family, it was his suggestion for him to recoup the debt, to ask his family for a loan. Anyhow, they, not to my knowledge, because of his bad gambling habit, he'd already owned money to loan sharks,
Yep.
and his family already helped him out once.
Yep.
This was not to my knowledge at the time.
And how did the police get involved?
Well, they set up a task force called Helmer, and Detective Constable Webb, which I'd like to thank a lot for giving me a new direction in life.
That's good.
Okay, they set up a task force, and via GPS satellite navigation, they pinpointed this chap's phone down to the nearest metre or two, and that's how they located him and us, and that's when the whole investigation started on why that incident happened and what was going on, what surrounded the whole kidnapping, extortion, whatever
And
it
we
is.
might talk about that court case after the next break. Thanks for coming on, Maurice.
Not a problem.
We'll be back very shortly with Maurice Valentino. What an interesting story to share. And he has turned the corner, but we'll be back shortly.